Welcome to the Ghost N.E.A.R Show, where we discuss and explore paranormal phenomena. I am your host, Keith Johnson, the co-founder of New England Anomalies Research. And today, I will be interviewing none other than Scott Wolter. You will recognize him from the TV show America Unearthed on the Travel Channel, and he is a forensic geologist and author, along with his wife, Janet, co-historian and researcher. And we also have their son, Grant. Grant, it's nice to have you today. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
you, Scott. It's such an honor to have you two on today.
Well, thank you so much. We're excited to be here, and I have to say that it's going to be extra fun having Grant here with us. So
that is great.
And he's a structural engineer, so if there's anything that ventures into that territory, I'm going to defer to him.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
Okay.
And I'd like to mention your new book, Cryptic Code of the Templars in America. See? You can get a shot of that? Yes. It's your newest book, correct?
Yep, it's been out about 2 months, 2.5 months.
Oh, very good, very good. I love the color, the cover and everything, the colors, and I can't wait to get into it.
Well, it's pretty good. I think it's the best work I've done. This is the 4th book I've done with this subject matter of Templars in America, and I think it's the best. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, thank you.
If not, don't tell me.
Well, the Templars in America, that's a fascinating topic.
It is.
A lot of people want to learn about and want to know about.
Right.
Now, you've had many experiences in New England.
Oh, I've spent a lot of time here in New England because as part of this research that for me began actually 20 years ago in this coming July, I can't believe it's been that long, but it started with the Kensington runestone, and then I went over to Scandinavia trying to track the origins of the inscription. And it's a long inscription carved in runes. It has numbers, it has Latin letters, but essentially what it is it's a land claim. It says acquisition, business, or taking up land. So somebody came here claiming land, and the question then became, who did it? Where'd they come from, and why did they come here? And so that led me over to Scandinavia, and I spent a few years over there finding all the elements that had not been found up to that point, and it was then that I realized the people that had carved this were the Knights Templar, the medieval Knights Templar. And of course, if you know anything about the Templars, they were persecuted by the King of France, by the Roman Catholic Church, and in 1307 they were suppressed, and everybody thought that they had disappeared. Well, that is not the case. They did not disappear. They just went underground and eventually turned their attention over here to North America, and the base of operations was in the Northeast, right here. So that's the reason I've spent so much time here.
Oh, well, that is truly fascinating. Now, the Narragansett rune stone, Templar in origin, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the key to the Narragansett runestone, which was found off Pojak Point, which is just south of here a little bit, where we're sitting right now. And I'm going to actually be meeting, after we have this interview, we're going down to see where the Narragansett runestone is now. Mm-hmm. And we're going to meet with some of the council members of North Kingstown. Apparently the city engineer is going to be there, and some of the retired folks that remember artifact going back to the 1940s. But what I want to talk to them about is they've done a great job of, first of all, accepting the artifact, secondly, building a shelter to protect it from the weather, which we recommended to them.
Right.
And now I want to try to convince them that they need to put up some fencing around it, security fencing, to protect it from alteration, or I should say from vandalism. Mm-hmm. Because just yesterday, Grant and I were up at America Stonehenge, a fantastic, mysterious site that's pre-Columbian, that was vandalized a couple of months ago by an ultra right-wing group. And we went up to look at some of the repairs that had been done. But I'm going to talk to them in North Kingstown about protecting it from, all it takes is one person, right, to destroy a historical artifact.
Yep,
and whether we know everything about it or not, it doesn't matter. We'll learn things in the future, and we will solve all the mysteries of it. But until that time, we need to protect it.
Yes, and Sandra and I have experienced that historic sites in Rhode Island and in New England and the whole area. You get a cemetery, historical cemetery, that has a reputation for haunted phenomena.
Right.
Pretty soon people are knocking over gravestones, chipping away at things, taking mementos, and sacrilege and things like that. So,
well, and you want to believe that people know better and they understand the respect and the sacredness of these things, and sadly, like I said, all it takes is one to ruin it for everybody else.
Okay, now another location that is very close to my heart personally, the Newport Tower. Newport Tower and its connection, a possible connection to Prince Henry.
Well, if you talk to the local indigenous people, and we're actually going to be the chief of the Wampanoag tribe, that was their territory that the Newport Tower now sits on. And in talking to Chief Black Eagle, I asked him point blank, and I recorded it, who built this tower? And he said, Prince Henry Sinclair and the Templars when they came through here. And, some people say, well, how would he know that? Well, if there's one thing I've learned about the indigenous people is don't question them if they even bother to tell you, because in most cases, they don't really care what white people think, right?
Right.
For obvious reasons, the way we treated them, at contact and ever since. So if you earn their trust and they deem you worthy of sharing this information, you better pay attention, because they're telling the truth and they know a lot. And so I think there's a lot to be learned there.
Please describe the Newport Tower for our audience.
Okay. Well, the Newport Tower is on the other side of Narragansett Bay from where we are right now. It's at the top of the hill overlooking the harbor there in Newport, Rhode Island. And it's a two-story stone and mortar structure that is a round cylinder. The second story is a round stone and mortar structure that sits on 8 columns that are evenly spaced with Romanesque style arches in between the columns. And when you look at it, some people have claimed that it's a colonial windmill.
Yeah, and I've always wondered about that, how it could be a windmill. And the structural integrity, I'm going to ask that about Grant, if you could explain that to us.
Well, it probably would not be a windmill. Basically, if you think about a windmill, it's going to take a lot of lateral forces from the wind that it's designed to catch, right?
Yes.
So rather than, if I were going to design a windmill, rather than a bunch of columns with arches connecting them, I'd build a continuous wall, because that's going to be much stronger resisting these lateral forces than these arches are. And not only are they weaker to resisting wind load, they're more difficult to build. So I really don't know why you would do that if it was just going to be a windmill.
Right. Looks like it would crack apart.
Yeah, well, it'd just push right over.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a really good point, and I didn't think about it until he just said it, is, it's actually beautiful when you look at it. And not coincidentally, in my view, if you look at Templar architecture, medieval Templar architecture, in some of the most sacred places to the Templars, like in Portugal, there's a Templar castle in Tomar, where inside the church, the altar is a 2-story octagonal-shaped tower on 8 heavy columns with Romanesque arches. You also see it in Cistercian monasteries, what they called the lavatorium, which is where the monks would go to bathe every day, the 3 meals, and it was a sacred thing. So these are very important sacred structures. And if you go back to Jerusalem, and you look, that's where the Templars controlled the Temple Mount back in the 12th century, you see this same sacred architecture there. So in my view, this is where they got it. They used it in their own sacred structures, and eventually when they came over here to establish the first settlement in the New World, or the New Jerusalem as they called it, they built this tower. Now the question is, if it's not a windmill, then what is it? Well, first and foremost, it's a chapel. It's a sacred place where they would worship. I didn't say church.
Okay.
Chapel.
Chapel.
And it's also been known to, we've documented numerous solar, lunar, and other astronomical alignments. It's basically an observatory. And the question is, well, if it's a windmill, why would you incorporate all these other things? And in addition to the structural things that Grant talked about, there's a fireplace in it that has Northern Scottish twin flue architecture for the smoke to be vented out the side. Why would you build a fireplace inside of a windmill that's grinding grain, right?
Doesn't make much sense.
It would blow up.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
there's really no evidence to support the fact that it's a windmill. And I think part of that is there are forces out there that really don't want this Templar history to come out. The church is one of them. There are certain political interests that don't want this, and historians that have already hitched their wagon to the windmill theory are reticent to go down that road that might even be sacrilegious to their to their disciplines. And it's unfortunate, but I don't have those constraints. I look at the evidence and I go where it takes us, and that's where it's taken us, and to only them. So this will all come out in due time. There was some historian that said to me one time, history changes one death at a time.
Right.
Maybe that's the way it used to be. Now with the internet and everything, I think it'll happen, hopefully in my lifetime.
Right.
We'll see.
And of course, the solstice, you can view the sunrise. And what do you see?
Well, this was something that it's actually a co-discovery that I made with Jim Egan, who lives and has a store right there across the street from the tower.
Jim.
And Jim's he's a really smart guy. He's a really good guy. I think he gets a little excited about his theory. We have a disagreement about it, but what I Jim, is we agree to disagree respectfully, and we're still really good friends. And I know he's wrong, he knows I'm wrong, but we'll see how that all plays out. But the bottom line is we agree it's not a colonial windmill. It was built before that.
Right.
And really that's all that matters at this point. The details will they'll take care of themselves with time, but. It's important that we have people here and he's there every day. He sees people, anyone that even looks like they're interested in the tower, he'll walk up and talk to them. So, it's good to have that, and we're both singing essentially the same song, and it's the right song. And so tomorrow morning, which is the winter solstice, December 21st, which ironically happens to be my birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, Scott. Happy birthday tomorrow.
And what happens is there's a window in the south of the tower that will create a light box. When the sun comes up, it'll shine inside, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, the light box will actually go through the southwest window. There's another window about a quarter turn, and that alignment is at 8 o'clock. Then the light box, as the sun moves, west and higher in the sky as the day progresses, at 9 o'clock, that light box will frame out an egg-shaped keystone, which just happens to have megalithic dimensions. It's 12 inches wide by 20.625 inches. When you add those two together, that's 32.625 inches. If you divide by 12 inches, that's 2.722 feet. That's an ancient megalithic measurement that is not a coincidence. In fact, Stonehenge is built using the megalithic yard and many other ancient structures, which begs the question, if this is a windmill, why didn't they use the British foot, right?
Yeah.
Why did they use an ancient measuring system? Because the Templars had that ancient knowledge, and they used it in the tower. But at 9 o'clock, that egg will be framed out by the light. It's a light tan-colored granite egg-shaped keystone, the only true keystone in the tower, and it will light up beautifully. And Jim was the first one to take that photograph, but he didn't understand what it was. I understood what it was, and I said, Jim, I know what that is. And anyway, we that following winter, it was 2 months after he showed this photograph, that I went to the tower and I documented it, and it was amazing.
Wow, that is truly amazing, truly amazing. So estimated age of the Newport Tower?
Well, if I had to put money down right now, I would say circa 1400, because Earl Henry Sinclair came here in 1398, and he left over 140 nights all told in 2 trips he took, 1395, 1398. And one group was sent down to Narragansett Bay to establish a settlement. And I think what they did is they probably laid out the alignments on the ground first before they built the tower. And that probably took a year or 2 or maybe more. And then I think they built the tower after that. Now, what happened to that colony is unknown. Did they assimilate with the natives? We know that they got along very well with the natives. The natives have told us that. So that's an interesting question, but I think at the end of the day, if you're in a place like this, you're probably going to assimilate with them. You're not going to convert them to your European way of life. And
Right.
And indigenous people live in balance with their environment better than any culture I know of. So I'm sure the Templars realized that that was the way to go.
Right, and of course there was the horrors of King Philip's War in
Right.
the 17th century and everything.
Yeah.
I know our director and good friend Nathan Mayer has been there to witness the solstice, the sunrise there at the Newport Tower with you.
Yeah, what's interesting is when I first documented it in 2007, I was all by myself. And it was strange because for the whole almost hour that I was there, and what I did was I had a tripod. I'm taking pictures of the light box, progression, so I published those pictures. Not a single soul came by, and that never happens. There's always somebody there. Now, this was before anyone knew about the illumination. This was the moment that we figured it out. But it was really a magical moment for me, and it was really an epiphany and a validation, if you will, of everything that I had worked on up to that point. And so it was really a special time. And then I published it in 2009. Well, now it's become a pilgrimage, for people to come.
Quite a gathering there every year.
So there's going to be a lot of people there tomorrow. I've had a photograph already sent today. Somebody was there this morning and sent me a picture and said, "Hey, you're going to be here tomorrow?" I said, "Yes." So I'd like to just say to the sun god, would you please be there tomorrow in no clouds?
Yep. Too bad. Didn't know you when we got married. Sandra and I were married in 2001. Of course, it was in the summer too, but we had our honeymoon picture taken in front of that.
Oh, did you? In the tower?
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Well, you know what's funny is a couple of years ago we were here for the solstice, and we went there was a party in the house right across the street, and we went in there, and actually they came out to the tower. We talked. We said, "Oh, come on in, have a drink," and they're serving food. So they invited us. We went in, and the wedding party. This was after the wedding. They had the service inside the tower.
Really?
They got married inside the tower, and this was the after party. But we got there. We didn't see the ceremony, but they showed us pictures. I have one of the pictures. So people are actually getting married inside the tower. And,
that's cool.
And I think it's great that people are embracing that. And like I said, it's only a matter of time before it's accepted for what it is. And it's not a small thing because, everybody looks back and thinks that, the beginning of the founding of the country started in 1776.
Right.
Well, obviously that was an important time, but really the beginning, in my view, started in 1362 with the Kensington and Runestone land claim. And those medieval Templars were practicing rituals that are the same rituals that we as Freemasons practice today. And I know for a fact that the medieval Templars passed the obligation of finishing the job of establishing what they called back then a free Templar state that we now call the United States of America.
Wow, fascinating.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It truly makes sense.
And
Getting back to the Sinclairs.
yes.
Yeah, the Westford Knight.
Yes, the Westford Knight. Well, the Westford Knight, and I, some of the people in the area might not be too happy with me when I say this, but look, the facts are the facts. Some people want to claim that there's a full knight there that's carved with the head and the shoulders and the chainmail and the coat, and then a shield, supposedly with the gun clan coat of arms. That's BS, pardon my French. But what is there is a beautiful medieval sword. And if you want to make the claim that you have a carving that represents a fallen medieval knight, all you need is a sword. I have been to preceptories that have Templar grave slabs, and carved on there is a sword. Now, there's also a crack in the sword, which indicates a fallen knight, and you actually have that on the glacial striations that they took advantage of for the blade, and you have that right there. So, is it, does it symbolize and date back to a fallen Templar knight that was with Earl Henry Sinclair's party of Templars that were here? It could very well. Do I know that for sure? No. Do I want to believe it? Absolutely. And it could very well be.
Right, and of course now they have the whole effigy there.
The bronze casting that was put there of the knight with the sword, done by David Christiana, and he did a great job. And it's a great sight. And if you're a type of person that feels things when you're at a place, and there are people that have very strong feelings like that, as you know. Many people say there's good energy there. All I know is there's definitely a sword, and it could very well, as far as the weathering, date back to that time period.
Yes. And of course, America's Stonehenge. Touch upon that. And
yep.
You were there as well, right?
Yeah, we were out there yesterday.
Yeah.
If I can ask Grant a question, I've been there many times, and we filmed episodes there. This is really your first time as an adult there. We took him when he was little, but what'd you think?
Well, it's unlike anything I've ever seen really here in America as far as, archaeological sites. It doesn't look like anything I've seen that's Native American in origin.
Well, the natives said.
Well, yeah, they said
this place is haunted. He said we didn't do this.
And the alignments are fascinating too.
Yeah.
There's so many different spots out there with some kind of calendar site, but I really don't know what to make of it. I want to know who made it.
But I mean, you didn't walk around and say this is a bunch of baloney, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. No, it was cool.
I don't know how it could be baloney.
Exactly. It's amazing on one hand, but it's a little bit sad on the other hand. And what I don't understand is why academics aren't jumping all over this site, trying to understand what it is. And I know that we know the owners very well. They are wonderful. They came to my lecture last night. They drove all the way down an hour to attend my lecture, and they're really good people, and they would welcome any researchers, legitimate researchers that would want to come and do work on the site. And I just don't know why academics don't take advantage of it. I mean, they could make their careers with the discoveries that could be made there.
There's such a treasure, right? So many treasures right here in New England,
and everything is, it's at the highest point in the area. You've got these stones that now, we can use archaeoastronomy and look at some of the alignments that are there, and they're actually not quite lined up perfectly anymore because of precession. Things have moved off a little bit, and if you go back, you can actually retro-age these alignments when they were perfect, and they're not hundreds of years, they're thousands of years. Right. So 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 years, some of them. So
not colonial.
No.
Right.
So it's a little bit sad, and I guess all I have to say is, what have you got to lose? And if people criticize you, then, tell them to put up or shut up, and let's get after it and figure out what it is. And it's important, and it needs to be studied.
Yeah, we even have Cumberland Knight right here in Rhode Island.
Absolutely.
Geologists can come from all over the world and find Cumberland Knight right here in Rhode Island.
Well, I have some pretty good pieces, let me tell you. I've actually been given some pieces that have collected pieces. And of course, in the south column of the Newport Tower, about 3.5 feet off the ground is a great big chunk, and it's facing the south side, and it begs the question, was that a coincidence or was it intentional?
It has magnetic properties.
It has very high magnetic properties, and I choose the latter. I think it was intentional.
Right. Okay, great. Now, you know what I really like, the idea of you and Janet going out, and Grant too. Are you doing more of that, like as a family, going out and exploring?
Well, we've been doing exploring, getting out in the field ever since he was born, and his sister,
what a
Amanda.
Start.
I mean, I've dragged him into gravel pits. How many gravel pits? The only problem with bringing him along to pick agates, and that's our state gemstone. They're beautiful rocks, and I've been a collector for a long time. But when there was one time I brought the kids, and he was only about 9 years old, and what was really upset me was he found a much better agate than I had ever found, and he found it, and I'm like, Grant! But no, we've been bringing him out in the field for a long time, and when they're kids in high school and junior high, it's like, oh, geez, that's dad and mom stuff. But as he's gotten older, I think he's grown to appreciate it, and quite frankly, he brings a level of expertise and a knowledge base as an engineer that is actually really helpful. So now he's on the squad.
Yeah, and as you well know, when you start discovering and uncovering these things, you kind of step on people's toes a bit. Accepted traditional beliefs and.
Well, you know what? That's unfortunate, but look, I problem doing it because my intention isn't to hurt anybody's feelings or tread on someone's sacred paradigm. I'm a scientist. I'm going about it in what I think is the best scientific way, gathering evidence, and I don't have time to worry about people's dogma. I just don't. And my intention is not to offend, so if you do get offended, it's really your fault. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it.
Right. Now, what's ahead on the horizon for you, besides the literal horizon tomorrow morning, seeing the solstice sunrise and celebrating your birthday?
Well done, actually. That's a nice segue.
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping that American Earth will come back. Travel has decided to go 100% paranormal, so that's not really a good fit for our show, but other channels are looking at it. And to be quite frank with you, I'm hopeful that we would get a series or a special that really investigates some of the new research that we have in the book. And I will also tell you, I'm in the midst of writing another book about more secret documents that the world has not seen yet. And this is incredible. This is what I talked about last night. Mm-hmm. But these new documents I haven't talked about yet. All I can say is buckle up, baby, because it's going to get even more fun.
Wow. So you're going to rewrite history as we know it?
No, you know what? I don't think about it like that. We're not rewriting history. I think we're just getting the history right.
Right.
And
well, that's a good point, yes.
And if you have to rewrite it, then rewrite it.
Yes, very good.
Let's just get it right.
Yeah. So any great sites other than what we've mentioned here in New England and Rhode Island that you're going to see while you're here?
Well, we went to Bunker Hill, and we saw the obelisk there at the Battle of Bunker Hill. He had never seen that before.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I woke up yesterday morning, and my legs were a little sore already. We climbed the 294 steps to the top.
Wow.
But as far as ancient sites, we're going to the Narragansett Runestone next, then we're going to Newport. But then my wife Janet said, you better get your butt home for your birthday. So we fly home tomorrow at about 4:30 from Boston. And we pick up an hour, so we'll get there just in time for dinner and a beer.
Sounds good.
Yeah, brewski, that'll always go down nice after a long day of investigating and traveling.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you can come back to our show sometime again. It's been wonderful having you on. It always feels like we're just getting started.
I know, and then it's time to go. But thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it and appreciate you taking the time to hear us chat. And we'll come back anytime you want.
Great. I'm glad to know that. I'd like to get you into Warwick, Rhode Island, where we live.
All right. I want to hear some of your stories.
Oh, yeah. There's quite a few, and quite a few discoveries made just recently in the area of Warwick, Rhode Island.
Sounds great.
Also famous Rocky Point, too.
Okay. I'm in. Let's do it.
Great. Grant, so nice meeting you, and glad to have you on. That's an added bonus that you're actually on with your dad, and we want to get the whole family in.
Yeah, we'll get Janet next time.
Next time, okay?
The upcharge for bringing him will be minor, don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you, seriously.
Well, okay. God bless. Good luck with your endeavors and safety, and we'll see you again soon, and we'll be watching.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great holiday, by the way.
Oh, yes,
Great
same to
holiday
you.